What's going on, everybody? Today, I wanted to do a deck guide for Dragon Druid, mostly because I really enjoy playing the deck. Since coming back to Hearthstone, it's definitely the deck I have played the most. It's got some great early game ramp, sort of stabilizing mid game, keeping you alive, cycling cards, and then some big late game defensive options. And you've got a very fun closer in Trog Gem Tosser, throwing 16 rocks at your opponent's face to finish off a game. Wonderful. So I think the best way to break this deck down is to put each card into three distinct groups. You've got your mulligan cards, your mid game cards, and your late game big boys. The mulligan cards you're looking for: Gift Wrap Whelp, Gorgonzormu, New Heights, Splish Splash Whelp. Innervate is sort of a conditional hold. If you have another one of these cards in hand, Innervate's something you want to keep. If you don't have any of those other cards in hand, a lot of times I will toss back Innervate, but it's somewhat situational. Something to keep in mind as well, there's a few cards in this deck that can sort of bait you into pulling them early, and they are not the greatest choices, so it's something to avoid. Those being Trog Gem Tosser, rather than being an early game minion, this is usually your closer. You're going to wait until you have a huge amount of mana with New Heights and play this on the finale. A lot of times for 13, 16 damage out of hand. It is an essential way to close the game, so you don't want this in hand that early. And then Take to the Skies is another card where it seems good. It seems it's 3 costs. Maybe you think you want it early, but if you are running up against anything that's sticking minions on the board in the first few turns, playing an empty turn 3 where you're just drawing cards is not ideal. So a lot of times you want Take to the Skies generally more in the mid game, and then it falls off in the late game. Moving on to the mid game cards, you've got Chia Drake, Nest Matron, Dorian, Flower Child, and Doomkin's sort of on the border now. He just recently got a nerf. He used to be 6 mana, now he's 7. Still a great card, just comes a little later. Starting with Chia Drake, this is a great one, especially if you can combo it with something like a Nest Matron on turn 4. Nest Matron into Chia Drake, drawing a spell helps you recycle. It's got a great body at 2/4 to sort of keep minions off the board. It trades well into 3/2s, 2/2s. All around good minion, also generates a miniaturized version of itself. A lot of value here. Speaking of value, the next card is Desert Nest Matron, an insane card. As someone who played Hearthstone in the beta and early on, coming back to the game and seeing this card, I'm just kind of flabbergasted. Great conditional trigger with you have to be holding a dragon, but oftentimes it's not a problem. There's so many other dragons in this deck. You definitely want to play him out as early as you can. But just all around solid value card. I mean, there's not much to be said. He's sort of a body on the board with a taunt. And then we have Puppet Master Dorian. Very interesting card. I like this card a lot because he's so versatile in the sense that you can play him in the mid game, you can play him on turn 4, or you can play him much later in the game when you're running 10, 11, 12 mana, and he's great there too. Later in the game, you sort of want to watch out for overdrawing, especially if you're comboing with something like Sleep Under the Stars or Summer Flower Child. Early in the game, he becomes like a pseudo taunt. If you play him out on turn 4, you coin him on turn 3, your opponent has to deal with this card because the potential for him to ball out of control is very high. I've won games just outright by playing him turn 4 and my opponent didn't have an answer. So one to watch out for. Then there is Summer Flower Child, another great value card, insane. Stats, not too bad for the cost. 4/5 at 5. It's a little understated, but its effect is extremely powerful. I think what you'll find playing this deck more and more is a lot of times if you hit your line, you're ramping early, you're playing New Heights, you're playing Splish Splash, you will find yourself low on cards right about the time that Summer Flower Child hits. And not only does she draw 2 cards, but she can make them cost less, which is very, very helpful. Then there's Doomkin, sort of the last of the mid-game cards. Post-nerf, still pretty good. I still play him. A lot of times he will sit in hand. His effect is very powerful. I mean, he's very understated at 7 cost, 4 attack, 3 health. But Not only does he grant you a mana crystal, he takes one from your opponent. A lot of times this is sort of a weird win more card, especially if you have control of the board, your opponent's struggling to sort of stabilize. You play a Doomkin out, steal one of the mana crystals, get one of yours. He's sort of an investment in keeping that advantage. And then rounding out the deck is the late game big boys, starting with Marin the Manager. A very, very fun card, very powerful, new to Perils in Paradise. 7 cost, 6/6. Not too impressive stat wise, but his Battlecry effect is extremely powerful in that it generates 4 cards. You get to pick one. I'll put them on screen now. Can be a win condition depending on what you hit, what you decide on. Very versatile in that it allows you to place some minions on the board immediately if you needed to refill your hand. Just great all around card. Gives you lots of options. Very fun. Then we have Sleep Under the Stars. Fulfills kind of a similar role to Summer Flower Child in that it helps you cycle a lot. This deck is not lacking in its draw. In fact, overdrawing or decking yourself is often a problem, so you want to watch out for that. You get to choose 3 options 3 times, draw 2 cards, gain 5 mana, gain 3 mana crystals, or refresh 3 mana crystals rather. Very powerful, very versatile. Sometimes ends up being a win more card. You can use this when you've got a presence on the board. Not the best if you're behind and you're just taking hits to the face, but really great card. Often sees play in most of the games I play. Love it. Then we have Fi, the Setting Sun. Incredible value card. As you'll see, Fi is sort of the start of these last 4 minions. Very big legendaries that all sort of fulfill the same role. They're very defensive legendaries. They on their own are not going to be your win condition, but they are going to keep you alive, and they're going to come out earlier than you think. Fi, Rush, Lifesteal, Taunt, huge body, 4 damage, 12 health. You're usually going to trade this into something immediately to stabilize your health total. Cost 1 for each dragon you've summoned this game, which is great. A lot of times you'll find Fi is not coming out on 9, 10. Fi is coming out on turn 5, 6, especially if you have sort of played your line with Gift Wrap Whelp, Splish Splash, Desert Nest Matron. Also, don't discount it. Playing it later in the game is still great because it makes for turns where your opponent doesn't expect to be hit with ENR and Fi in the same turn. Yogg-Saron Unleashed, another big defensive minion. He's got 3 abilities, Titan. The 3 abilities are Tentacle Swarm, Induce Insanity, Reign of Chaos. Tentacle Swarm you can sort of put to the side, discount. You're almost never going to use it, and most of the time Yogg-Saron is going to die before you get the chance to. Induce Insanity is your board clear, forces enemies to attack each other. Very strong, very useful. Reign of Chaos takes control of an enemy minion, so there's always the threat of taking anything big they want to invest in. Very versatile, defensive, great card. Love him or hate him, I think he's generally more maligned. Ziliax, great card. Fulfills pretty similar role to Fi with the Rush Lifesteal. Can really stabilize your health total. Put a big presence on board immediately. And, what more is there to say about this card that hasn't already been said? ENR is the last card rounding out this deck, the second Titan. Great card, a lot of defensive options, a lot of cycling options. In some ways, it's like Sleep Under the Stars, the card or the creature. Refreshes your entire mana crystal set, restores your hero to full health, or draws until your hand is full. And when she does any of those things, she summons a 5/5 Taunt. I oftentimes don't find myself drawing until my hand is full. By the time ENR is coming out, I am worried about decking myself more than anything else. But Bountiful Harvest is great for stabilizing. Refreshing the mana crystals makes for some huge turns where you can drop ENR, you can drop Fi, you can drop anything else you have after that, Doomkin, some smaller minions. But great all-around versatile card. As you can see, looking at the full list, sort of in aggregate, the early game mulligans focused on ramping. The mid game is a good focus on just putting strong bodies on the board to sort of slow an aggro opponent or put some pressure on a more passive opponent. The late game minions are very defensive, aimed at keeping you alive, keeping the game going longer. The goal here, generally, the closer, is the Trog Gem Tosser. There are ways you can win just by winning the board and poking your opponent down turn after turn if they don't have an answer, but oftentimes the Gem Tosser is the thing that's going to put you over the top. If you can clear their board off on a turn and then play a Gem Tosser on 10, 13, 16 mana, that's often the thing that closes out the game. So rather than talking here anymore, why don't we jump into a few games? I'll talk through the mulligans, the play lines, why maybe I'm trading on the board instead of going face. I think a big thing to keep in mind in this deck is you want to assess as quickly as possible whether it's a game you want to take late game versus your opponent or you want to put pressure on them with the mid game minions. Some decks are just going to beat you out in the late game. They're going to take you late game and you're going to run out of cards. Other decks are going to come hot right out the gate, and if you can stop them, stabilize your health total, that's going to pull out the win. So if you can get a read on that as early as possible, that is what's going to give you the best win rate with this deck.
My sorcery will prevail. The forest fights back.
All right, so we're looking at Sleep Under the Stars, New Heights, Gem Tosser. I'm going to throw both of these back in the hope of fishing out something else good for us. New Heights is great. We got a couple other cards that are pretty late game. But if we can get away with a turn or two of inactivity, this should still be fine. Plus the double Nest Matron on turn 4 now is going to be fairly strong at stopping early aggression.
I raise, you fold.
Turn 3, New Heights. That's the turn. Innervate. Now the Innervate comes. We'll drop Nest Matron. Nest Matron. That's the turn. And look at it, just like that, with the Innervate. Next turn, we can Innervate out Marin. Can't play the card he generates immediately, but getting an early Marin's fairly strong. Oh, he was angling for the finale there. Makes sense. Weird trade unless he's going to play something else.
Time runs out on me.
It's fine. Firefly, 9 cards in hand. All right. I'm thinking still go with that initial plan. Alternatively, Dorian, hero power. I don't really think he gets us all that much. Plus, Marin the manager sets up next turn. If we grab the Wondrous Wand, which I will, or a lot of cycling at reduced cost, which I feel is lacking at the moment.
Not a single scale.
Again, I like to play it safe, trade off the board. If it would have put me at 1 health on the Nest Matron, I wouldn't have just because of hero power, but I think I'm fine with that. It's okay, that's his whole turn. So this is an interesting move. We can do Dorian. Wondrous Wand
For the puppet master.
for a very strong bump up. I don't think we overdraw here. No. And this makes things... This kind of radically changes the turn. Can do this. The Gem Tosser, this scenario does not happen that often, but because this Gem Tosser is 0, technically 2 Gem Tossers can be played in the same turn and both get their finale effect off, which is huge, and I don't think he's going to be expecting that. So I think I am going to hold this in hand until we have a little bit more mana and hit him really hard. But I will swipe this off the board, hit face, and then pass the turn. It's fine. The double Doomkin. Very nice. I'm a little sad that we're not going to trade nicely, but I am more than okay with just stealing a whole bunch of his mana. At 2, I'm thinking, oh, that's probably the right call. The outlook was pretty dire for him. Let's see what we got. Mage.
You asked for it. The forest fights back.
None of these are really a keep. I would throw them all back. So this will be a good game to see how this deck pans out when the mulligan doesn't really go my way. So probably Elemental Mage. Can't imagine it's anything else.
Time runs out on me. This will be good.
I'm gonna hit face. This is gonna be a little scary. We don't have a lot of early answers, especially if he has the elemental that buffs the other ones. No, Archivist, but still a good. Trail Spider. A lot of late game minions coming in. I guess I'll play the Dorian in the hopes that he trades into it. It sort of is the pseudo taunt. Honestly, I would prefer that. He'd have to trade away most of his board. There is the elemental with 3/3 with rush. I don't know if he has enough mana for the triple look, so he's gonna freeze it. This deck might be tough just because of the Lava Surgers. If those keep hitting, we will have a hard time here. This is a little sad because it's hitting on an awkward turn. I think I'll throw it out. That is actually at 9 cards. Not bad. I think he's going to kill Dorian. But a tiny Yogg is almost as good as a normal Yogg because he can still do... he can still force them to attack each other. If I can hold out until then, I'm feeling okay. So I like that a lot. Elementals, okay. Coin. Slow down, brother. Swipe. I think at this point I would like to...
This'll be good.
I will take the 1 damage. I want to bait him into playing more onto the board. I am concerned about my health total as the game goes longer. I think it needs to get up as soon as possible and then sleep under the stars, the armor. I was hoping for that. Somewhat. So Yogg. Tiny baby Yogg. Force them to attack each other. There we go. I was like, what is happening? Interesting card. New heights for ramp.
This'll be good.
Hit his face. Now I'm feeling somewhat better. I think it's possible to see the elemental that does 7 damage to random targets, or he just spams out a lot of minions. He could also Surger again. I think this is just a Ziliak's turn. The thing about this deck is, his deck, is once he loses control of the board, he will have a difficult time. This is going to bump our life total back up. Because it doesn't have a lot of ways to win the board back. It has just a ton of minions and then the Lamplighter combo. He could Surger again. Which he may do, but that kind of depends on if he has it. So, like I said, a lot of minions. He played that. It doesn't draw a frost spell because he didn't have any frost spells.
Time runs out on me.
There is a lot to do here. I think he wants me to trade this so he can hero power it again. I think there's enough clear here with Yogg and 2 swipes. Let a move like this. This is terrible one to pull out, but what are you gonna do? How many cards we got in hand? 7. We'll draw 2. And we'll armor. armor. I just want to stay out of Lamplighter range. He's not there yet anyways, though. So he's got a Saloon Brewmaster it because that there is a desperation play. If he does not have another Brewmaster in his deck, which a lot of lists don't, they just have the one, that severely limits his damage potential. I think it's Nest Matron. It's Doomkin. I don't want him to have any chance of bringing this back. This. And we hit his face. I think he's in a real bad spot.
Picking up pace. Nice to meet you.
Innervate. Again, this deck doesn't have any real removal. What do I want to do, actually? Am I that threatened? Not really. Especially with the second Sleep Under the Stars. I'm almost thinking just don't, Innervate, hero power this. I'll trade the net 1 armor. Sweep the board clear. Draw. And now, without the Brewmaster and having ENR in hand, there's a complete health reset.
A frozen treat as sweet as me.
Everything in his hand is like generated from what synthesizes the card, the one that gives you elementals, and then this card. This is a situation where I need to start hitting face, otherwise I'm going to deck myself. But I don't feel all that threatened. I'm wondering if he's going to hero power the Whelp.
Time runs out on me.
What did that do? Discover a spell from your deck. You didn't have any spells in deck. But yeah, that could have been a dangerous game. Depending on how well he curved out with those elementals, but able to stabilize, took backboard control, and pulled out a win. Let's see what we got. Death Knight. I think these are all clear throwbacks. He full mulliganed as well, so hopefully that's a good sign. A lot of late game cards, so we're passing turn 1. We don't have a great line to play for the next few turns. Gem Tosser is not the play. Hero power.
This will be good.
I'm pretty happy with this. These are fairly slow opening turns. both for him and for me.
This'll be good.
Which, if he was pressing more, would be a big concern.
You have earned an eternity of torment.
So hell yeah. Plague's going to be tough because of the degree to which this deck burns through cards. There are already quite a few plagues in the deck. I'll draw a spell. New Heights. It's not bad, it's just slow at this point.
My pain doesn't compare to your plague.
There's what, 5 plagues in the deck? About to be 6 permanent plagues. Swipe. We can do that. I want to slow this down for sure. Even more. How many is that? 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 plagues in the deck. Which is scary. I'm not as worried about the damage. It is more
This'll be good.
is more just the plagues being disruptive that I'm most concerned about. For a slow, I mean, we didn't get rushed down here, but I do feel as though he sort of hit his line with Staff of the Primus Helya on 3.
Candle much lighter.
And the thing is, he can pull out Reska and the Azure Rat, which will be a big problem. I am okay with another swipe to slow him down. Gorgonzormu. And I don't think I want to take any more damage given the board state.
You now take mandible.
So absolutely on the back foot here, for sure. I think Doomkin's too slow. I'm thinking hero power. See what we can throw out here. Armor's fine.
We all exist
Draw some
in
cards.
harmony.
Yogg is not bad. Ziliax is not bad. Very surprised we haven't hit more plagues. But if I'm gonna make a move here, if I'm going to pull this game out, I need to stabilize the board, get a little bit of control, and then Gem Tosser.
Death cannot be bound.
Lightboard is killing it!
Which is not what is happening here. I think it's just the need to Yogg, right? Force him to attack, see where it goes.
Cannot be bound.
I will do this. Hit that. We'll go Sigil of skydiving.
I found it first!
Good for him. Still not a great spot. Very scary spot.
Take a good look. You ain't never
Kreska.
seen the light again.
Okay. Primus. So many plagues. I'm gonna hit these plagues at some point soon. That is so surprising. Thinking Ziliax, he's running out of cards. I just need to survive for a non-insignificant amount of time. He's gonna Reska again. I am gonna do this just to put the pressure on somewhat. It's gonna be Rat Reska. I think, right? He hit enough excavates, I believe.
The runes.
No, the Primus. Okay.
Unholy. Symbol of death.
Oh, not a great one to hit. What is the play here?
Now how about...
Insignificant.
Do you think I want to trade some of these off the board? Hero power this friend. Hit. And I'm still thinking Doomkin, the finale. Oh, we didn't get him. It's unlucky. He pulls 2 health. Not great though, because that doesn't spend any mana. Okay. Excavate and still pull a rat. I don't think he'll do it though. There's no reason. Gotta hit some plagues, right? There are more plagues in my deck than anything else.
Shiny stab!
I think that's pretty much game. I don't think there's much to do.
I can't win them all.
Lunara
Rogue.
versus Valera.
Stay in the
Let's see what we got.
The forest fights back.
Turn 2. I feel better with coin against Rogue. I'll throw these 3 back. Hoping for another dragon. Cool.
Just what are you?
Seems like a great lineup. Coin. New heights. It. Organzorma is going to be 4/4 and ticking early in the game, which is great. Slam. Cool. Let's do that. 4/4 body's great. He's hitting turn 4.
Bring out the best in you.
The Cutlass, the weapon rogue. This deck is pretty scary. We'll go Flower Child.
Job's done.
Reduce cost. Wow. I'm loving it. What's he gonna do here? Gonna take that to 2. Oh, he's got the drinks. Okay. Dorian is 1 play. Let's push the board. I know he's got the drinks, but he's going to want to deal with a lot of these.
Very nice.
I like these.
Together now!
Yeah. So he's going to be desperate to get rid of that. Got a coin. Burn through the Nightshade.
It's time for treasure transport.
Welcome to the crew.
He's going to discover a pirate. He's still going to hit face. Just fascinating. I mean, this deck does push some good damage. What dragons can we pull? Fi, Whelp, Splish Splash.
Now how about...
Definitely going to trade smartly. I do want this to die on my turn. But I think this trade is just too good to pass up. Throw Marin out. Grab the wand.
Hey, lights out.
Hit. His life total is dwindling. But I don't count this deck out. The Cutlass is scary, for sure. And I think that's it. We just... Styliax. Got him. That deck does have the potential to very much win the late game if he can buff the weapon. So taking him out pretty early for a ramp deck was the right move. I think that turn with the door in and the 3-cost minions really clinched it. Just putting a lot of pressure on his health total before he could do much about it. All right, there you go. You win some, you lose some. I kept that Plague Death Knight game in there just to show what it looks like when your opponent hits their line and you don't hit your line. Sometimes you play the best you can, but you still lose. Something to keep in mind for Hearthstone, card games more generally, and for life.